Nahir Mariana Galarza was born on September 11, 1998, to Marcelo Galarza, a senior police officer, and Yamina Crow, a former police officer. She had a younger brother named Aaron, and the Galarza family lived in Gualeguaychú, Argentina. Nahir was well liked at school because of her beauty and was known to be confident and somewhat spoiled. She often bragged that her father's influence would get her out of any trouble and that she always got whatever she wanted. Nahir's upbringing was unusual. While her father held a strong authority in the family, her mother was more like a friend to her, often ignoring or even encouraging her bad behavior. Both Nahir and her mother looked up to her father as the central figure of power and influence in their lives, almost like an idol. Outside of him, Nahir had little regard for any other authority. She was a good student and athlete, excelling in school and on the hockey team. She was very popular at school because of her good looks, and many boys tried to get her attention, which she enjoyed. In 2012, when Nahir was 14 years old, she met a boy from her school called Fernando. Fernando Gabriel Pastorizzo was born on January 3, 1997, in Entre Rios, Argentina. His parents, Gustavo Pastorizzo and Silvia Mantes, separated when he was young, but they remained on good terms and ensured that Fernando and his sister Carla had a happy childhood. Fernando was described as outgoing and friendly, who made friends easily, and was very close to his family. Nahir often used her good looks to her advantage and had a tendency to bully other students. If she found someone she didn't like or thought was inferior, she would make fun of them and humiliate them. Once, a girl bought a dress similar to the one Nahir wore to her 15th birthday party, and Nahir became furious, accusing the girl of copying her. She started mocking her on social media and even threatened the girl, demanding she stop wearing the dress. This behavior was common for Nahir when she felt threatened or jealous, and she would often use intimidation to get her way. At the start of her relationship with Fernando, they kept it a secret. Nahir didn't want anyone to know because she still wanted to date other boys while keeping Fernando as her steady partner. She would decide whom to spend time with, and whenever she came across a boy she found attractive, she would invite him over to her house to hang out and watch a movie. Her parents were aware of this but never stopped her. Eventually, Fernando found out that Nahir was seeing other boys, which hurt him deeply as it was his first real relationship, and he was very much in love with her. Instead of ending things, he started seeing other girls as well. When Nahir discovered this, she became angry, constantly checking his phone, and tried to control his social life by not letting him meet his friends. After a while, they decided to officially make their relationship public, which made Nahir's parents happy because she would no longer bring other boys home. They even supported their daughter's relationship with Fernando, believing it would help her settle down. In 2016, Nahir's parents booked a trip to Brazil and invited Fernando to join them. The couple's relationship seemed stable then, with social media posts showing them together often. However, their relationship didn't stay peaceful for long. They kept fighting and breaking up, but always got back together, making their relationship more unstable. In 2017, after finishing high school, Nahir began studying law at the University of Concepción del Uruguay. There, she started seeing a professor and a guy named Rafael. She even told her friends she was dating Rafael. But at that time, she was still in a relationship with Fernando. Despite Fernando's friends' advice to break up with Nahir, he continued seeing her. By December 2017, Fernando had grown tired of his toxic relationship with Nahir and began showing signs that he wanted to break up. Nahir threatened him, claiming he would be hurt if he left her. To make matters worse, she spread a false rumor that he had attacked her, using bruises from a hockey game to back up her story. Despite her own infidelities, Nahir would often accuse Fernando of seeing other girls and would respond with insults and threats. One night, Fernando caught Nahir kissing Rafael at a nightclub, which led to an argument. In the heat of the moment, Fernando grabbed her by her shoulder, and people around them thought he was attacking her. Nahir's friend Saul Martinez stepped in and punched Fernando, leading to his expulsion from the club. He was deeply hurt by the entire situation. Later, Nahir and her friend Saul went to Fernando's house, where they physically attacked him with blows and punches and threatened him using her father's position as a police officer. When they realized Fernando had recorded the incident, they forced him to delete the video. Fernando later confided in a friend, saying that he had been badly hurt and almost lost consciousness during the attack. But what hurt him the most were the cruel things the two girls said about his family. Seeking support, Fernando turned to Nahir's aunt, but after speaking to Nahir, she sided with her niece and dismissed Fernando's account as a lie. In the days that followed, Fernando's emotional state worsened, and his friends encouraged him to leave town and start fresh. In hopes of escaping the toxic relationship, he enrolled in a college in a different city, with classes set to start in March the next year. But a tragic event soon took place that would change everything for him. On December 28, 2017, Fernando had a final conversation with Nahir, where he expressed his decision to end their relationship for good. He told her that he wanted to move on and start a new chapter in his life. Later that night, around 2 a.m., Nahir went to Fernando's house, pleading with him to spend one last night together. She said she couldn't bear to lose him. He reluctantly agreed, and the two went to her house, where they spent 3 hours and slept together one last time. Later, when Fernando prepared to leave, Nahir asked if he could do her one last favor by giving her a ride to her grandmother's house. He agreed and waited as she went inside to grab something. While inside the house, Nahir secretly took a 9mm pistol that belonged to her father and hid it in her pocket. When they were halfway through, Nahir asked Fernando to stop in a dark, isolated area, where she got off the bike and shot Fernando in the back, which immediately caused him to fall off his motorcycle. Nahir went up to him and fired again at point-blank range to ensure he wouldn't survive. Afterward, Nahir searched the area for the shell casings to avoid leaving any evidence, but she couldn't locate them all. Later, the police discovered one of the casings near the scene. A taxi driver drove by the crime scene just as Nahir was collecting the shell casings. He saw a man lying on the ground with a girl next to him, but he didn't think it was serious at the time. Afterward, Nahir walked back home. A security camera caught her calmly walking at 5:22 a.m. Once home, she put her father's gun back, took a shower, and went to sleep. A few minutes later, the same taxi driver returned to the scene and saw Fernando lying alone in the street. He stopped his car, approached him, and saw that he was badly injured. The driver quickly called emergency services, but despite their prompt arrival, Fernando died before reaching the hospital. The crime occurred a few miles from Fernando's home. At first, the police thought it might have been a robbery, but when they saw that none of his belongings had been taken, they realized it was a targeted attack, and the killer's goal was simply to murder him. The news quickly spread throughout the city about a 20-year-old boy's death. Fernando's mother, Sylvia, called Nahir to ask if she knew where he was as he hadn't come home yet. Nahir lied, saying she last saw him at 11 p.m. A few hours later, Sylvia got a call from the police with the tragic news about her son. His parents were devastated by the news. Once the news spread, Nahir posted a message on social media expressing her sorrow and calling Fernando the love of her life, despite their ups and downs. During the investigation, police discovered that the road Fernando was on was not his usual route. This made them suspect he had been lured there. Nahir was called in to give a statement since she was close to Fernando. In her testimony, she suggested that a relative of Fernando or one of his police officer friends might have been responsible for the crime. Throughout the questioning, she remained strangely calm and unaffected, which made the police suspicious. They thought that she might have hired someone to commit the crime, as they doubted she was capable of carrying it out herself. However, a few days later, an arrest warrant was issued for Nahir as the main suspect. She went to the police station with one of the best lawyers, where she claimed she had no idea who was responsible for Fernando's death. However, she had confessed to her parents that she had killed Fernando. Her parents then tried to find a way for her to avoid punishment. Since the punishment for a crime involving a relationship with the victim is usually more severe in Argentina, Nahir's defense team worked to convince authorities that there was no romantic connection between her and Fernando. In one statement, Nahir insisted that they had only casually dated and were never more than that. Her father even supported this by claiming that Fernando and Nahir were never lovers. This story was part of a strategy to have Nahir face a lesser charge of homicide, which carries a sentence of 8 to 25 years, instead of aggravated homicide, which could result in life imprisonment. To back up this claim, Nahir's father also argued that Fernando had mistreated his daughter, saying he had seen her injured multiple times. However, this defense fell apart when the police found photos and videos of Nahir and Fernando together on their family trip to Brazil. The photos and videos clearly showed the two of them expressing their love for each other. After her story was contradicted by evidence, Nahir changed her account again. She claimed that she had been in a relationship with Fernando but said he always used to harm her. On the day of the incident, she said that Fernando took her father's gun and forced her to go with him on his motorcycle. According to her, during the ride, Fernando lost control of the motorcycle, causing them to fall. She said she then managed to grab the gun, and in the struggle it accidentally went off, hitting Fernando. In her version, She then shot him again by accident because she was frightened and unsure of what to do. Despite the inconsistencies in her story, some people believed her. Her friends launched online campaigns calling for her release, and feminist groups staged protests in her support. Nahir even asked her friend, Saul Martinez, to testify that Fernando had been toxic. However, when questioned, Saul contradicted her account, which weakened Nahir's defense. Fernando's friends also gave testimony, many of them sharing stories of how Nahir had mistreated Fernando and also shared details about the time when Nahir and Saul Martinez physically attacked Fernando. These accounts painted a much darker picture of their relationship. Throughout the case, Nahir became a media sensation in Argentina, with her name trending on social networks, and she seemed to like the attention. The case gained widespread attention across the country and other South American nations. In June 2018, Nahir's trial began. Her defense continued to argue that Fernando was violent, but a surprise turned the case. Gabriel Cartana, the psychologist hired by Nahir's defense to support her claims of abuse, ended up testifying against her. He described Nahir as manipulative and spoiled, stating that she did have a relationship with Fernando. Following his testimony, he was dismissed by the defense, and his clinical reports were sealed. Despite the defense's efforts, it became clear that Nahir would be convicted. On July 3, 2018, at the age of 19, she was found guilty of murdering Fernando and was sentenced to life in prison. She would have to serve at least 35 years before being considered for parole. After her conviction, several feminist groups protested in different cities across Argentina, calling for a review of her sentence. However, these protests had no impact, and her sentence remained unchanged. After her arrest, Nahir gave interviews where she spoke about the crime as if what happened to Fernando was some kind of supernatural event with no one to blame. She expressed deep sadness about being in prison, particularly on weekends when she missed going out to dance and drink. Because of her young age, her family's influence, and the high profile of the case, Nahir was placed in a different type of prison. This was a facility known as a farm, where there are no traditional bars or cells, only rooms that offer various recreational activities. In this setting, she had the opportunity to study, socialize with friends, and supposedly even access her social media accounts. Some sources claim that Nahir posted a photo from inside the prison, captioning it with, "Serving this damn sentence." After entering prison, Nahir reportedly started a new relationship with a man named Matthias. She met him when he came to visit his grandmother, who was also an inmate at the same facility. In August 2019, Nahir's appeal was rejected again. That year, it was also reported that she was engaging in various activities within the prison and was studying psychology. In March 2020, the court denied another appeal from her defense. Then, in January 2022, an unexpected twist occurred. Nahir changed her legal representation and, with the support of her mother, accused her father of being the real killer of Fernando. She claimed that it was her father who took Fernando's life and pressured her to take the fall for the crime, promising that his influence would eventually get her released. Nahir even posted on social media, recalling her 15th birthday party and including pictures where she covered her father's face. The accusations of Nahir and how his wife sided with her deeply affected Nahir's father. He filed for divorce and withdrew from public life. He left the police force, lost a significant amount of weight, and moved to a small farm in Gualeguaychú. Marcelo spoke publicly about his emotional devastation, stating that his family had been torn apart and that he had been through a very tough time. He now focuses on raising chickens and keeps in touch with his son Aaron, who has been supportive. Despite Nahir's claims, authorities found no evidence linking Marcelo to the crime. Experts believe that these accusations are simply a desperate attempt by Nahir and her legal team to have her released from prison. Some rumors even suggested that Nahir was pregnant, though the pregnancy did not continue. In May 2024, a film titled Nahir was released on Amazon Prime Video. Critics quickly pointed out that the movie misrepresented the true events, portraying Nahir as a victim and dramatically altering the story. Although the film was based on real events, it was criticized for turning them into fiction. Currently, Nahir Galarza remains in a women's prison in Argentina, holding the distinction of being the youngest woman in the country's history to receive a life sentence. Nahir's story is a tragic reminder of the dangers of toxic relationships and unchecked jealousy. It also highlights the importance of correcting children's mistakes and teaching them to respect others and their emotions. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to my channel for more true crime content. See you next time.